Hey guys, so I'm here with my friend, my client, James Lavelle, and today we're going to talk about James's experience of transformation, personal transformation, and we've worked together quite a lot recently, and then over the years as well. And the reason why I've invited James on this call today is because I think James's story is very inspiring. He's gone through a lot of setbacks, adversity, and on the outside looking in, someone will probably look at James's life, and James would probably agree with me and think that everything is perfect, ticking all the boxes. But James, probably by his own admission, and he's going to share his story, would say that he wasn't feeling 100%, even though on the outside everything was going perfectly, as some people would look at it. He wasn't feeling like he didn't have the energy that he wanted. He didn't have the inspiration and the purpose and the kind of connectivity he was looking for. And now he's in a really, really good place. And he's made some key changes in his life, but most importantly, to himself, that has resulted in that prolific transformation that he was always looking for. So I wanted James to come on and share with people and show them what's possible when you commit to really lasting, permanent change. So, James, first of all, welcome and thank you for being on the call today. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background and who you are?
Yeah, sure, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here, and always makes me smile when I think about that because it gives me a chance to reflect on the journey, right? And we should look back. I always say, use looking back as a place of reference, not residence. That we should learn from there, not live there. But I'll just shoot straight with the guys who are watching this. I came from a dysfunctional background. Chaos was never too far away. So there was lots of drink, drugs, all that sort of stuff involved in my upbringing. I got expelled from school, was told I was never going to amount to nothing, which may have been a fair assessment at the time. I suppose the only saving grace at that time, after a couple of years of messing about with the wrong crowd, is that I went and joined the British military. So for me, that was the first time in my life where I had structure, discipline, routine. And I was also part of something bigger than me, which is also inspiring, right? So 15 years in the British military, and those attributes actually carry over into other things. So you might be in the military learning certain things, but actually when I got into business, because of those attributes, I was successful. So as you know, Daniel, my first kind of dip into business was 2013. I had an online business, and while I was still serving in the military, I was making more in a month with my online business than I was getting a year in the military. So can you imagine that? It was pretty life-changing for me and my daughter. Decided to leave the military, created success, made multiple seven figures over the next 8 years, traveled the world, spoke on stages, got all the things that people think they want. It was really interesting, and we was talking about this just last week, right? Is that new levels are going to bring you to new devils, right? So I overcame all this conditioning from being young, and I had this achiever's mindset. I wanted to prove myself, got to a position in life, made some money, created some success. But actually, then it's a never-ending process, right? So got to where I thought the things that would make me happy would make me happy. And bit by bit, I don't know whether it was comfort, I don't know whether it was just being at that level, then there was something started to unfold, right? I had some problems with my energy, Daniel, as you remember. I had some problems, if I'm honest with myself, which is hard to say because I'm a coach myself. I had some problems with beliefs because, the first one is not believing you can get there. I always believed I could get there, but maybe when I got there was some sabotaging beliefs, right? There was some things that came up that maybe I didn't feel worthy. Maybe there was a scarcity mindset. So, the really important thing for me, what I've learned a long time ago, and I still live by this day, is there are people out there, success leaves clues, and you can't figure all this out on your own. The smart thing is knowing when you need help and being in, dropping your ego and reaching out to people. So through the years, I attribute my success to, yes, discipline, hard work, motivation, all that stuff. But I always knew, and I was always okay with reaching out for help. I always say that you go where you need to go to get what you need to get. So that is kind of the overview of the story. And as you can imagine, it's never a straight line to success, but ultimately I've learned a lot over the last decade. And I think, like I said, the key factor is there are always people who are in a better position than you who can help you shortcut the distance to where you need to be.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Love that. So, what I think is really fascinating about your story, and I think that a lot of people could benefit from, is how you approached it originally and then how your mindset shifted. So what I mean by that is that when you and I originally started working together, it was more on a health and a wellness basis, right? So back when I was doing health and wellness coaching, I used to do a lot of blood testing for my clients, and there was always, whenever you do a blood test, there's always stuff to work on, right? There's always stuff to fix. And the thing about James is James was living a pretty, for all intents and purposes, a pretty healthy lifestyle. But as a health coach, I always find that there was always stuff that we can improve on. And we worked on a lot of stuff, and James did feel better, probably you would agree. But what we discovered was with James is there was something missing. The blood test worked out good. James was like one of the most dedicated people I've met when it comes to taking his supplements, probably due to his former life probably from the military days, right? Being extremely disciplined. Like I could always rely on James to go away and do the work and apply himself. But what I found, James, and you probably agree with me, was that there was something that was not quite right. You felt like there was just something there, even though you've done all these things. You go into jiu-jitsu, you're taking the blood tests, you're even considering doing all these other things. You've done all the amazing things that people tell you to do, the ice baths and the saunas, but you weren't quite right. So could you talk us a little bit through that and what the challenges that you were facing?
Yeah, it was super interesting. Like you said, I've always been pretty diligent. And then, there's times when you can feel sorry for yourself because you think, I'm in shape, a trainer, do all these good things. And why do I feel like crap, right? And the thing is, I'd built my business in the beginning. I got the skills and knowledge later on, but I had a tremendous enthusiasm and energy that often preceded me before I walked into a room. That's how I built it. So then when I had a loss of energy, I felt like Superman next to kryptonite. So I was like scrambling, trying to figure it out, because without that energy, for anyone who's watching this, if you never experienced it, low energy, low mood, low production, low thoughts, it's all correlated, right? So I was really struggling, and I was trying anything and everything. Hence why I ended up, I read your book, Daniel, and then, came to you, and it was like, okay, this guy can help. And he did. And it was like, we did the bloods, and there were some things but there was something beyond that. And it probably wasn't even then that we realized, but since the conversation since, and like I said, it takes a certain level of person to look inwards and say, a belief system contributed to that. Because I can see, and maybe there was other things at first, who knows whether it was the chicken or the egg, but from feeling in low energy, low mood, started to reaffirm that, I'm always tired, and you guys know watching this, what you repeat becomes your reality. So Daniel would have to listen to, I'm tired and this, nothing works. Can you imagine doing that for a couple of years? If that wasn't your belief system before, it's pretty soon going to become your belief system. So it was crazy because I've done all these external things, the bloods, this, that, and the other, supplements, and they helped for sure. But ultimately, it was making that shift in the belief system. It was reaffirming the right things. It was now creating a compelling vision for the future and not continue to loop over the memories of the past. Oh, my energy, poor me. And it happens to the best of us, right? So I think the only thing you can do in those situations, you get to a point in your life where you say enough's enough and you take full responsibility. But the thing is, what happens is you always need people like Daniel in your life to show you the mirror. Because if you don't have that, not everyone always has that awareness. They think it's other things, right? It's external, it's this, it's that. So that was a really important phase of my journey. And I'm always thankful for our conversations, because after a conversation like that, then you go away and reflect and you start to question your own beliefs, right? I'm like, what have I been thinking? How has it been contributing to the way I've been feeling? How long has this been going on? What if I continue to think like that? So that's really important. I've heard this a lot before, and I now know it to be true more than ever, that success ultimately in anything you want to do in terms of business, your health, wherever you want to be, success is 80% psychology, 20% strategy. And a lot of people have that the wrong way around, right? If you haven't got the right belief system, if you don't think the right way, feel the right way, it doesn't matter what strategy you've got, you won't execute on it, you won't maximize it. So this for me now in my life is always number one, making sure that I create the thoughts that are empowering, that lead to the feelings that I want to experience, and that ultimately that I'm prioritize my mindset and my belief system more than anything else.
Love it. Thanks for sharing. So, I mean, it's true, right? Because all the top performers in the world, they're such big proponents of mindset, from professional boxers to CEOs, to people like Tony Robbins, to Hollywood actors, they're all massive, massive proponents of mindset, because it's true. You are a reflection of what you think. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, as they say in the Bible, right? And don't get me wrong, James and I will both agree that health is wealth and it's extremely important. But if you don't marry that up with the right thinking and the right mindset and the right beliefs, then you're going to come stuck. And I remember the conversation before James and I started working together again. We had this conversation again as one of our first calls, and I said, James, do you think that maybe the way that you're thinking is reinforcing this, what's going on inside? And I think when you're ready to hear something, you're ready to hear something, right? And it just kind of clicked for you, and you were just in that place, because I don't think that you were in that, perhaps that mind space, as aware and as accomplished as you are. You probably weren't in that mind space because you always get what you focus on, right? And your mind at that time was like, oh, it's got to be this. No, it's maybe testosterone, or it's the supplements. And don't get me wrong, like we said, these things have their place. But you were very focused on those things, and that's not a fault of yours. You just, because that's the solution you were looking for, right? And then when we started talking again and we started working together again, you were like, okay, maybe there's something in this. I need to look at this. And there was probably some truth in that. There's probably a lot of truth in it, right? That you were reaffirming it by saying that you don't have energy, I don't have inspiration, and why am I not feeling so good? And so if you want a better answer, you have to ask yourself the right questions, right? And I think what was going on is you had unconsciously, and as aware as you are about beliefs and how mindset works, it's very important to have that mirror and to understand like where your blind spots are, because I think that you were unwittingly reinforcing these negative beliefs that had created that reality. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, and credit to you, Daniel, because for those guys who are viewing this, I spent over 300K on my development. I take this stuff seriously, and mindset is kind of a loose term, isn't it? That's thrown about. So, a lot of people know that they need to work on a mindset. But the difference is when you get around a world-class coach like Daniel, it's knowing when to ask the right questions at the right time. Because most of us, and even as developed as I am and aware as I am, I wasn't asking that question at that time because I had my blinker. That's what a limiting belief is, right? I was focused on the wrong things. And sometimes we have an awareness of our limiting beliefs, but most of the time we don't, because if we did, we'd probably do something about it. So it was you asking those questions and my respect for you that was like, okay, if Daniel's bringing this up, he's bringing it to my attention. I need to reflect on this. I haven't really considered this. I thought it was this, it was that, and that, and that. Maybe it was for a bit, but like we said, because I continue to reaffirm those things, it now become a reality. And I kept looking for external things to inspire me, to energize me. And guess what? It didn't. And until I went inwards and did the inner work, and really started to integrate some of the things Daniel was teaching and change my belief system. There's other things that I did as well. That's when my energy changed. That's when the inspiration came. There wasn't anyone else or anything else that could create that. It was me who was limiting myself. So I had to get unstuck myself. So that was a real big insight for me, and something, that I take forward as well with my coaching clients, right? Because quite often, like what people think the thing is that's holding them back, it's not. And it needs someone who has an intention and a certain level of experience to be able to tap you on the shoulder and go, have you considered this? So, it was one of those moments, and I've had a few over the years, that was a real eureka moment. Like, hang on a minute. I know this logically, I know this stuff, but I think this one's crept up on me. I didn't. I was like, yeah, you've got a point.
Well, I love it. Thanks for sharing. And it really demonstrates, doesn't it, the way that we are conditioned in society to put the cart before the horse. So what I mean by that is we're so conditioned to think that my purpose, my inspiration, my energy, and all these things are out there, outside of me. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that. Right, because that's the way that we're taught our entire lives to think. And in your case, one of the projects that you worked on earlier on, over 10 years ago, made you extremely successful, and you were so driven and so motivated and so inspired, and you had this purpose to get up and this passion to get up every single day. It's like it made you go through brick walls, right? Because you had this inner drive, right? And you were kind of searching for that ever since, in one way, shape, or form, right? And you would questioning yourself, why can't I find it? What is it? Why can't I find it? And you were constantly searching for it, right? And then what you discovered is that actually you need to have inspiration. You need to be inspired. You must start by being inspired first. And then it clicked for you. And you were like, well, if I create the inspiration, the purpose, and therefore I'm going to have more energy. And if I start it from within, which you started really doing this work on yourself. And honestly, I can't tell you guys how crazy it is and how quickly it's came into James's life, like this, right? This inspiration since you started doing this inner work. And I mean, you've always been doing it, but like you really took it to that next level. What you did is you really took the responsibility for it and didn't blame. You never blame. You're not a victim in the slightest. You never have been like that, but you stopped looking at the outside for what the inspiration and the meaning and the purpose. And you decided to go inwardly to really, what do I really want? Like, how do I really want to feel? And you started creating that in your environment, within yourself, and in your environment started to become a reflection of that. So could you talk a little bit more about that in your own words, please, James?
It's so powerful. You're right. So previously, as we said, I was like, I'll be happy when, I'll be inspired when, right? So the old model, like cause and effects. I'll do this and then I'll get inspiration. Then, so yeah, I've done a lot of personal development, and I was doing things every day. But like what you said, Daniel, we lasered in. It's different, right? You do a bits, read, do this, cold baths, whatever. They are one percenters, right? But when you get really focused and know that this is a priority, so instead of cause and effect, the opposite of that is causing an effect, right? With intention every day, you start to create the inspiration from inside, and it can be done. Like what Daniel's saying, like after a couple of years of not feeling like that, within a couple of weeks, I was feeling like that. And what's a byproduct of creating the inspiration from the inside out? Well, everything's just better. The trees are a little bit greener. The sky's a little bit bluer. Your intention is a little bit more powerful. And the energy, like before it'd be, oh, just have a little sleep on the couch in the afternoon. Like that became a part of, I was always planning for it, right? And now I'm like, no, like all afternoon, like no, because that, I contributed to that, right? And all of a sudden when you start to, and we've all got it in us and we've experienced it at some points in life and other points in life, maybe it's eluded us. But the reminder is that you can create it again. Because I didn't create it for 2 years and I was asking the wrong questions until I started asking the right questions and I got the right answers. And then I was doing this inner work. And I'm telling you that it's the epicenter, it's the found, everything you want to create in your life has got to come from inwards. This is an inside out job, not an outside in job. And I think I knew that anyway, like I said, but I didn't have that awareness at that time to go, that's actually what it is. And, honestly, I'm grateful for it all, because here's the thing, Daniel, I will never not do what I do now. I won't ever take that risk again, ever. I get up in the morning, and again, everyone's got their own thing. Oh, I'm busy in this, all these things that they got to go and serve the world. Oh, yeah, well, I've got to do it. Cool. Well, that's fine for you. But for me, I do what I need to do so I can show up at high level every day. And I'll never not do that, ever. It's like, it's not even a thing. Oh, well, it's just done. It's like brushing my teeth every day, because I don't ever want to feel the way I felt. Because I know when I operate from this energy, that the rest is done, right? The rest is just detail. When you have that low energy, that, low mindset, low thoughts, low feelings, then your life experience corresponds to that. So yeah, it's been a huge shift for sure. And even beyond just where it is, I want to compound on that, right? We just keep adding, like, let's go, continue to raise that energy and that inspiration, and you can create anything.
I think that's phenomenal. And I love what you said about brushing your teeth, because we see that we need to make sure that we look after our teeth, right? We have a nice smile and we have good dental hygiene, but rarely do we think about maintaining our energy or our inspiration or our spiritual health, or however you want to call it, right? You've got to do something to maintain that, but we're not doing that because we're not. But if you don't pour into yourself, you can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes, right? And it's so important to have that daily practice to pour it just the way that you would be brushing your teeth, right? If you're going to pour into yourself to maintain that energy and inspiration. And that's why people, when they're lacking it, like, why haven't I got inspired? Like, why isn't this project make me feel good? Why don't I feel good? It's because you're not feeling good in you. So it doesn't matter what project you do. It's not going to light you up if you don't feel good in the first place, right? So
Sure.
I think that having that daily practice is that I'm with you on the same. I don't miss it, because I know how much I miss it. If I just one day without it, you notice it, right? Because you're pouring into you. And I think a lot of people are bought into this idea that somehow it's maybe you've heard this as well, James, like somehow it's selfish to like spend that time for you in the morning, you know, or I don't have time. And people tell themselves all these white lies that, and it's not true. But the more time you put into you, the better the people are around you are going to be. Most importantly, the easier it is going to be to achieve your goals, and more effortless it's going to be. As James is finding, like the energy that you have when we speak now, James, even just compared to a few months ago, is just like next level, and just with the passion that you're talking with now. But when we spoke only a few months ago, the average person looking at you on the outside, why is he so like that? Why does he feel like that? You know, what's wrong? He's got this in this car, he's got this and this success. Why is he feeling like that? As you just said, James, it's all started with how you've been thinking.
Absolutely. Like you can have, and I get it, like I wanted all the material things. And I'm not saying I don't like nice things, but when you've sat in a Porsche with a gold Rolex on and still felt empty inside or low energy, then you start to realize what's really important. So like it's essential that you do whatever you need to do to create the energy and inspiration on a daily basis, because otherwise, and like you said before, Daniel, when you do that, you nourish everything, right? I have a couple of sayings on this. If the king doesn't eat first, the kingdom falls. You can take that one or you can use this one. The healthier the tree, the better the fruit. The quotes are great because they just give you that, okay, this makes sense. And I speak to some clients as well. It's like, oh, I feel guilty if I do this. And it's like, well, what are you teaching your children? That you don't matter. What message is that to them? So my daughter knows, like if she likes it, you know, she's almost a teenager. She likes a little sleeping these days, so I don't have to worry about that. But she came down and I was sat there, right, with a mask on. She knows I'm meditating. You know, I got my hip. I'm just going to let my dad do his thing, because that's what he needs to do to be the best version of him, and she gets the best version of me. And I would encourage you guys listening to this, like if you haven't got that mindset, it's essential. You do what you need to do to create the best version of you, and everyone in your sphere gets nourished.
What would you recommend, James, or what would you say to someone who's watching this and who's searching for more energy, for more inspiration, more purpose in their lives?
Well, what you've been doing right now, how's that working out? And I don't mean that to be like, I'm just asking the question. If you're watching this and you're wanting more, how's that working out? And the chances are, if you're lacking something, it's not working out that great, right? So the advice I would give everyone watching this is not advice that I haven't took myself. This is what I took myself. This is why I connect with people. This is why I have conversations with people like Daniel, because it's the same level of thinking. We talked about this before, right? Daniel, one of your favorite quotes, is not going to solve that problem. It has to be a different level of thinking, either your own or someone else's. It's easy when it's someone else's because we often can't see our blind spots. So my biggest reflection on the last 10 years is get around who you need to get around. Like, invest in yourself. Like, if you don't invest in yourself, if you don't believe you're worthy of investment, then what are you communicating to your subconscious? And then also, like I said, what you're going to continue to do, keep looping around the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same life experience, and somehow hope that some inspiration is going to come to you. And maybe it will, but maybe it won't. So that would be my biggest advice, is that if you knew the answers, you would have applied them right now. Chances are, right? So you have to do something different. And the quickest way to shortcut any progress is find someone who's further ahead than you, a couple of steps ahead, who knows, who has the experience, the wisdom, and the intention to help you solve your problems that you haven't been able to solve up to this point.
Well said. I've spent multiple six figures on coaching myself and mentorship, and as have you. Why do you think that mentorship and guidance is so important to someone's personal development?
Well, you know what you know, and it's what you don't know that's holding you back. That's the best way I can say it. It's like, it's almost naive, or I don't know, sometimes different people may come from a place of ego that you can figure it all out. It takes a person to humble themselves. To, like, I have no problem. Like, no problem. I'm a very successful coach myself. You know, I've made millions. I have no problem coming to Daniel. No problem. Other people might have that, but I don't, because remember what I said. Like, I'm human just like you. I have my own limiting beliefs. I have my own blind spots. So why would I not go to someone who I value, who has a different perspective, who I know is also got good intention towards me? That makes sense. Like, the opposite of that doesn't make sense. If I, and there's a few people in my sphere, Daniel's one of them, if I didn't have these conversations, I would more than likely still be in the same place. What's the cost of that? That's a great question, isn't it? What's the cost of being in the same place another 2 years from now, another 3 years? What does that look like in your business, in your life, your relationships, your satisfaction? So for me, it's just like number one, like money before anything else. When I make money, there's always a portion put to one side for my development and different times, right? Sometimes it's more health, sometimes it's more mindset, sometimes business, whatever it is. But if you're not investing in yourself, like, what are you doing? Like, if you're not, like Tony Robbins said it best, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And if you want to grow, you need to get around people who are better than you, who are further ahead, who can help you move forward.
One of the reasons why I wanted to speak to James, guys, was James is like a consummate student. He's a very studious and is willing to listen to other people's opinions, really applies himself. He's extremely coachable. And people would say, well, he's been so successful. Why does he need to listen to other people? But James would probably agree with me. It's probably the reason why he's been so successful, because he's been willing to listen to other people and be mentored, obviously by the right people, right? And so I think that if you want to go anywhere in life, and it's always applied in my life, having the right mentorship and guidance, but not just having the right mentorship and guidance, be willing to have a great attitude and be coachable, be listening to what that person is saying to you, right? Because you can have the best advice or the best training in the world, but if you're not willing to apply it and you want to do it your way, not their way, then you're not going to get the results that you seek. So James, what would you say to someone then who's looking for more inspiration? They want to create this more fulfilling life, because you've been on both sides of the spectrum, right? You've not only did you create massive success and then something that was very inspiring and energetic, but then you moved on to a new project and it didn't give you what you wanted. Now you come full circle and you've learned all those lessons. And I would say probably you're 10 times better than where you are before, because you're aware of the process of how to create that for yourself. So what would you say to someone watching this who's looking for more of that in their lives?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. The last point that you were talking about, to be a great leader, first you have to be a great follower. Yeah. So like, if I want to be a great leader, I have to walk the walk that I'm saying to my clients. I want my clients to invest in me and I'm not investing in myself. Then what sort of leader am I, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, in terms of, rephrase that question again, the second part of the question, Daniel.
Yeah, sure. So you've been on both sides of the spectrum. You've created a lot of success, but you've also been in a place where you didn't feel so inspired and fulfilled, right? And now with all the things that you've learned and applied, now you're really in a really good place, right? So what would you say to someone who wants to create a purposeful life and a life that they really love to wake up to?
Yeah, thank you. So firstly, everything you need is inside of you, right? And then people will say, well, if it's inside of me, why do I need to look elsewhere? Well, it's inside of you, but most people, don't know how to open that lock, right? That's what a good coach is. So a good coach will not only give you the keys to open the locks, but a good coach knows that you won't be with him forever, right? Because he's going to give you the tools to be able to do things yourself, or maybe further on you go, somewhere else. You go where you need to go to get what you need to get. But it's knowing that everything you need is inside of you. But sometimes, and quite often, in fact, that we need people who have experience in opening these locks. And that's what a good coach is, to help you to do that. So it's real simple. You got a decision to make. So if you have a real desire to grow and become more, there's two roads. And like, I do it on my own, like I'll figure it out. Or I'll find someone who's further ahead than me, who has the experience, who's got the keys to the locks, who can help me understand that. And people who go on the first road, I've seen it. It's often long, painful, frustrating, and it quite often leads to the destination that they didn't want to be. The second road, of course, there's no guarantees, but I remember one of my mentors teaching me you're 500% more likely to succeed with the right mentor. And that's because of that experience, that wisdom, the accountability, a whole host of things. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I for sure, though, the odds of being 500% more likely to succeed will be more appealing to me than trying to figure it out on my own.
I love that. When it reminds me of a Michael Jordan quote. Michael Jordan said, you can practice shooting for 8 hours a day, but if you're doing it with the wrong technique, it's just stubbornness, right? And he said, you need to get the fundamentals down, and then everything else will follow from that. And he also said, a good coach sees beyond your limits and what you place on yourself, right? And so if someone like Michael Jordan, who's I think he's the most successful person in NBA history, can say something like that, it just goes to show you, when you have the right direction and guidance, then everything else can follow. And what James is saying here is that we are not taught this stuff at school. We're not taught that we have infinite, unlimited potential inside of us. We have these things within us. We're not taught that. So having the right mentorship and the right, whatever you want to call it, direction, whether it's here or whether it's elsewhere, really what you want is someone to help you bring that out of you, to help you put that lock in, because you've got it. You just don't know that if you're not feeling the way that you want and not living the kind of inspiring life that you're looking for, it's just finding that combination. You all know what that combination is. We just got to help you find what that is and bring it out of you. And I think that trusting that you can create the life that you want and not buying into maybe some of these old stories, the old things that you used to tell yourself, as James can relate to, telling yourself the same old story. If you want better results, you got to start asking yourself better questions. What life would I love to create next year? How would I love it to look? How often do people ask themselves that question? The people that I come across a lot, because that's what they think about all the time, but the average person, they don't even ask themselves these questions because they're so limited and boxed in by the way that people have maybe conditioned them to think and the way that society thinks. They don't even think about what they really want every day. And James, I know the way James is, and I am as well. I think about this stuff all the time because I know that I am the person who designs my own life because it's all in here and here. But if you don't even allow yourself to dream and to ask yourself those questions, you're not going to start to unlock that potential that you've got within you. So, James, what are the closing thoughts would you have to share with people before we finish up today that you'd like them to hear and take away from our conversation?
If right now in your life that you aren't fully energized, inspired, lit, whatever you want to call it, then there's a reason for that, right? It's a message, isn't it? When I wasn't, it was like, then I would pay attention to that then, because I just want people to know that what I'm experiencing now in my life, that was been the norm for me, apart from a couple of years where it wasn't, right? So this is my standard. And I think, Daniel, for a lot of people, they lower the standards. They think, oh, this is it. I'm not supposed to have energy. I'm not supposed to be inspired. Some people kind of just give up, right? And I'm 43, and I feel currently better than ever. I'm in my best shape, best mental place. I'm like, and I get that I've had to overcome some bumps, but that's life, right? So my final message to everyone is, like, if you want to live a truly great life, if you want to operate on a higher level in all areas of your life, it's possible for you. You have to really believe that. If you don't believe that, then you're only ever going to rise to the level of your beliefs. So if you think it's not possible for me, then that's a limiting belief, right? And if you believe that, then that's the first thing, you passed most other people. Just totally off topic, Daniel, but it's really interesting. I did a story vote on my Instagram, about limiting beliefs and people, and you wouldn't believe how many people voted for the fact that they didn't think they have limiting beliefs. You talk about people being unconscious. They didn't think they had limiting beliefs. And I had a little look.
Limiting belief.
Yeah, I had a little look at each one of the profile, and I'm pretty sure they wasn't living the dream life. I'm pretty sure. So, and again, that's not a judgment or a criticism. It's just like, it's really interesting. So the first thing is you have to believe that you can live the life that you want. And once you believe that, that should be the fuel that then furnishes you to do what you need to do. And that's get around the right mentors and coaching, invest in yourself, pay attention to your environment. It's the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. People are either supporting or sabotaging. All these things are going to contribute to your success, to you living the life you want, or the other side of the coin, they're going to contribute to you not being successful, to you not living the life that you want. And a good thing for me in closing is, again, I always like two roads, not too many options, just two roads. Where do you want to be? And for all of us, in 10 years from now, and I think when you get older, life just seems to go a little bit quicker, right? 10 years from now, we're going to arrive at a destination. And I know in my heart the work that I'm doing, it's going to be a well-planned destination. Call it whatever you want, hard work, manifestation, whatever, a well-planned destination. that I'm consciously creating with my life. But for a lot of people in 10 years, they're going to arrive at an unplanned destination. They're going to live where they don't want to live. They're going to be with who they don't want to be. Maybe they're going to work where they don't want to work. Maybe they're going to be driving the car that they don't want to drive. My wish for you and everyone watching this is that you're going to be at a consciously planned destination. You have to know in your heart that you can create everything that you truly desire if you're willing to look inwards and if you're willing to invest in yourself.
Oh, I love that. Phenomenal. Actually, I've got, I lied, James. I've got one more thing I'm going to
Cool.
that you just mentioned here that brought it up. I totally agree with you there. If you want to know what your beliefs are, all you have to do is look at your results, because your thinking, your habitual programming is in control of your results. 96 to 98% of your thinking is habitual, and it's run by programs. If you want an example of a program that runs you, think of the last time you drove your car on an errand or on to work. You probably didn't remember any of it. That's because it's a program, right? So now if you have a program for your car, you've got programs in all areas of your life, right? And one thing I wanted to mention here, James, I wanted to get your take finally before we finish here, is there might be some people watching this and they're thinking, well, I'm inspired, I'm energized, but will I still take action and go after my goals? Because some people think that when I get into this state, they'll lose a part of themselves, right? They'll lose that drive and they'll lose that go-getter mentality. And what I find is that it makes you 10 times better, because you're not coming from a place of fear and anxiety, and you're in a place of like calmness and relaxedness. That drive never goes. In fact, it amplified. But also, I think we should be very, very transparent. James is one of the most disciplined people that I know. He's very accountable to himself and those around him. And sometimes you're going to get setbacks. There's going to be challenges. And it's not just sitting on the couch meditating and like saying meditations and then hoping everything is going to be attracted to you via the law of attraction. We're not talking about that. You still have to marry this philosophy and this mindset of the inner work with actually taking the action. Inspired action really is the word for it. You've got to take inspired action. You've got to do those things that you said you're going to do to yourself every day. You've got to keep your word to yourself. You've got to get outside your comfort zone and do things that you don't feel like doing, right? There's going to be days where you don't reach up to your personal standards and you don't have the discipline that you want, but you still got to move forward, right? So we've got to be inspired, but the inspiration is what causes the action. But you're deluding yourself if it's only going to be inspiration. I'm sitting on the couch, I'm feeling good. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about creating the ideal state, evoking that inspiration, that purpose, that energy, which is from then you're going to springboard from and take the action. So could you just talk a little bit about that for us, please, James?
Yeah, like you said, it's really interesting. I've lived both sides, by the way. So it's really interesting. The first part of my success journey was what we were saying now. I like to call it the limited self, because it was survival mode. What do I mean by that? I got shit done, but it was high stress, right? I was like, rah, but like I'm proving myself, ego, significance. I come from nothing. I'm gonna break the generational curses, and it got me so far, right? Let me tell you what the byproducts of that was. The byproducts of that was then finding people like Daniel to help me heal and fix. Because when you are dialed in here, and not here, what happens is you're in emergency mode, constantly thinking, and it will get you some results. But quite often after a couple of years, it can lead to other things like burnout and various other bits. And I wouldn't want that for you. What Daniel's talking about is inspired action, when these two are married up, right? So now you're not just clearing thought. So like my energy now is different than the energy back then. That energy back then got stuff done, but now I'm calmer, I'm more centered, I'm not erratic. And also I would have heightened emotional responses to things. Things would get to me more, right? Whatever comments on social media, right? So now, rather than these big highs and lows, there's this just line of like a consistent energy. So that's important to distinguish. If you have got energy at the moment, but actually you're not operating from the emotions that you want to experience in your life, because I did a post about this today. Like if you made loads of money but you're consistently feeling irritated or angry, are you really rich? I'm not so sure, right? And here's the kicker for some people. Imagine being a millionaire and we can go and pick you up today and put you in the Maldives tomorrow, you're in the Maldives in paradise, right? But you're still consistently looping over the same thoughts that lead to the same feelings. Think about that. Like, how do you want to live your life? So, for sure, what we're talking about are different things. There's an erratic energy, and success, by the way, without fulfillment is failure. So, even if you've had a little bit of success, if you're not fulfilled, then yeah, as Tony Robbins says, it's the ultimate failure. So, the idea in the next phase of life, yes, you want to be successful. We're here for it. Create what you want, have an abundant lifestyle, but also feel that joy and that inspiration in life. And I want to let you know that they're not separate things. You can really have it all, but it's going to take that commitment and that intention from you to really move towards that state.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, James. Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational story with everyone else. And so, James, if people wanted to learn more about you and follow you and find you, where can they find you, please?
Yeah, just probably the best is Instagram at James Lavelle Mentor. Lavelle is Lavelle, and then it's Mentor. I'm on Instagram, and you guys can find me there.
Cool. Thanks very much, James.
Pleasure.